What is up guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the second video in our series on creating a digital warehouse for your band. And in this one, we'll talk about naming conventions. Operating with very strict naming conventions is something super common for technology, production and logistics companies. Think about a pharmaceutical company. The company needs to be able to account for every step in a manufacturing process in order to sell their products to consumers. This means that every employee, every machine and every contractor needs to follow the same underlying principles and sets of actions, and they need to document every step along the way. This is called good manufacturing practice, or GMP for short, and it's required by law in many industries. While playing in a band doesn't exactly come with institutional law requirements, it is important to emphasize that having some clear standards for your band and how you operate is highly beneficial. I doubt that many musicians are unfamiliar with files named like this: Demo Song 3, Mix 2, Final, Master, Final, Wave MP3. With a file name like this, it makes it almost impossible to find the right file that you're looking for in your system. If we think about this file name according to a more GMP style standard, the aforementioned song would have to have another, more clear structure. This is where naming conventions come in handy. Let's take this example in more detail. First of all, whoever made this file in the first place has entangled the terms demo with song, mix with master, wave with MP3. Following a good naming convention, subtext such as mix only belongs to a mix. But we must assume that the mix is finished in this case, since there is also a master. We can also assume it's no longer a demo, since there is both a mix and a master. Let's break this file name up into some terms. Demo, Song 3, Mix 2, Master, Wave, MP3, and then a bunch of finals. Now we can begin to group the files according to a standard. This means that demo, mix and master could be labeled types, song could be labeled content, and MP3 and wave could be labeled formats. To create a coherent naming convention for your files, it's important to think about what the file actually contains when it comes to each label. A file should not have more than one of each label, if at all possible. Let's say that for this exact file, the actual file contains the master of song 3 in an MP3 format. We can remove the demo term, the mix 2 term, and the wave term, along with all the finals. This leaves us with song 3, master, and MP3. Now, here's the very important takeaway when it comes to naming conventions. How you choose to standardize the naming of your files depends on how you want to find them. And this is greatly influenced by how you have set up your folder structures. In this example, there's a difference between how you name the files, whether it belongs to a songs folder or a masters folder. To sort and index your files, you usually sort by the name. In a folder called songs, it would then be logical to sort your files according to the term type, in this case the master. On the other hand, in a folder called masters, it would make sense to sort based on the content, in this case song 3. Formats are usually created automatically on export. In case you want to put the file in your masters folder, it will make sense to name it song 3 master mp3. Sorting the folder by name would then list all of your songs from 1 to, let's say, 10. It would disregard the type in this case. However, if you were to search in your primary folders for the term master, this file will show up in the masters folder exactly where you want to find it. And you can then trust that it's the correct file. In the case of a songs folder, it could then make sense to name your file master song 3 mp3. If you now have all of your different types of this file in your same folder, so the demo, the mix and the master, sorting by name would separate them into each of the types. While we don't really recommend this kind of folder structure, I hope that it makes it clear why file names are influenced by the folder structure. In certain cases, it may be beneficial to use dates as your naming convention. This is the case where you have files that you want to be able to sort in a chronological order according to the date. For certain types of files, it's absolutely crucial that you're able to distinguish them on date, such as for receipts. In this case, we suggest using the following format: year, month, and date, along with a name or identifier for your file. The reason why is because it's the most effective for sorting chronologically in your folders. Here's an example to emphasize why it works. If you have 3 receipts that you want to add from 3 different dates, Sorting by name will line them up in a folder like this. As you can see, they line up perfectly by the date and chronologically. If, for example, you were to use another format such as date, month, and year, when sorting on name, the files will line up like this. As you can see, it messes up the order of the items. With only 3 items in your folder, it's not that big of a problem. But imagine you have 200 files and you can quickly see why it matters. We also recommend using a date naming convention for other files such as your video files. And then once you import your video files into your editing software, you can mess around with the names because it doesn't affect the raw files. But we highly recommend keeping your raw files according to the date naming convention when using video files. So you might be sitting with the question now, which is, why do you need to sort by name in your folders? There are obviously other identifiers you could use. You could use something like creation date. But the problem with using this is that you lose some of the control of how your files behave in your system. You never know if the creation date in your device is actually the date that the file was created. Sometimes it messes up. And this is why, for simplicity and for control, we highly recommend you sort your files on the name. Finally, I also want to mention that in many of the devices that you use nowadays, such as a camera or your smartphone, it's possible to automatically make naming conventions inside the devices. This means that you can specify how your device names your files so that it aligns with your naming convention. This is not only relevant to video files, but also to documents and receipts using a software called ADOBE Scan. You can learn more about ADOBE Scan in the link in our description. So I hope it's clear why using naming conventions is a really important tool in building your digital warehouse. In the next and final video in our series on building a digital warehouse, we'll go into details about some tools and tricks, some good practices of how to use and build your digital warehouse. So if you don't want to miss the next video or any future videos from Arachnid, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like if you find it useful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.